Hello and welcome to Feeling on Purpose, an interview series that will grow your mind. I'm your host, Stephanie Kathan, and it's my intention with this series to share with you a practical path to a magical life by tuning into the power of feeling on purpose. And as I was putting the guest list together for this series, it was really important for me to choose people who had touched my life in some way. And today's guest has done that on a deep level. She first showed up in my awareness a few years ago when she taught me that a breakup didn't have to mean a breakdown. And her life-on attitude let me know that she was somebody that I really wanted to learn from. And since then, she's taught me to establish my brand, upscale my business, and help me to discover my own authentic voice. And the meaningful mentorship that I received from her really showed me how to step into my own power and use that voice to share my message with the world. She's become a trusted coach and a dear friend, and it's an absolute honor to share her with you, my beloved listeners, the absolutely fabulous Lisa Steadman.
What a beautiful introduction. My goodness.
I mean it, every single word. I really
feel
want
it. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. I just want to dive right into this because, first of all, I love talking with you because every time I do, I always gain some sort of insight. It's like just tapping into your creativity. It's a ripple effect, something that happens just being in your presence. And so I'm very honored that we're sharing this space together. And I have some questions lined up. And the first one is, looking at your life now, you're a best-selling author, you're a TV radio personality, a branding expert, you've worked with major companies like Disney and Mattel, you're married to a fabulous man. A day for you might include pitching a show series to major networks or masterminding with women entrepreneurs all over the world. Did you ever imagine when you were younger that your life would look like it does today?
Yes. Yes, I have always had a big, massive vision for myself and my life. I've always known that I wanted to be a major player in the world, to influence. And the truth is, I never knew it could feel the way it feels. That part is very pinch me, like, oh my God, this is what it feels like to really be on fire and on purpose. Yeah, and the other part that I really want to share is that I am a total work in progress, and I always want more. So I am in such a space of gratitude, and every day I always say, thank you, universe. And you know what? I'd like some more.
That's a powerful message because you are a rare person who feels that when they're younger and stands in that truth and in that desire and achieves that in their life. So many people hide and think I'm not worthy of that, or who am I to deserve the spotlight or to be, reach celebrity status or have a bestseller. But you have this amazing way of just like living, and I love how you put it, life on, because you're like facing life head on and going with your passion. How do you do that?
I wish I knew. I don't know another way to be. I was talking to, I think it was either my husband or my father last week about this, and I said, if there was an alternative, I might choose it, but it's not a choice. You, Stephanie, are such a living, breathing example of being divinely guided, and I feel like everything that's happening in my life is so divinely guided, and sometimes I get a message and I'm like, really? Because it would be so much easier not to do that thing you say we want to do now. But being divinely guided, I just trust. And quite honestly, I've gotten to the point where I've seen it manifest so many times over that as much as there's fear when the first idea or inspiration hits and I go, that's pretty fucking big. Are you sure you want to go there? I also know, hey, we've been here before and we have done it. My husband reminds me. I want to tell a very brief story. Is that okay, Stephanie, if I tell a little story here?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. So I always knew I wanted this big life. I didn't know the how. Like, let me be clear, I am not a trust fund baby. The minute I graduated college, my dad was like, good luck. So, like, I've always had to make a living as well as be on fire and on purpose. And that is an eternal struggle. Like, that right there is a lifelong struggle for an artist who's ambitious. So I knew I wanted to write books. I knew I wanted to light up the world. And when I finally achieved my dream of my first book coming out, I hired a publicist, and it was a struggle, but they managed to get me on the Today Show. I had done all my press before that, and so hiring someone else was kind of like a leap of faith. Like, here's all this money. I hope you can produce what I've been producing for myself. But they booked me on the Today Show, and they said, look, you're going to be on, and they want to shoot some B-roll, which is behind the scenes. They want to show pieces from your book. So my book, it's a breakup, not a breakdown. We want to show a moving on party. We want to show a breakover, which is a makeover after a breakup. And we're going to do it in New York. I live in L.A. And we're going to do it in 2 weeks. Go. So I basically had to become a producer of 2 segments. Find two girls willing to be on TV talking about their breakup, one willing to go through a makeover. I had to find someone to give her a makeover. The other one was a moving on party. I had to find the girl. I had to find the gifts. I had to find it was hilarious. I literally was like, so let me get this straight. I get my dream of being on the Today Show, but I'm going to fail because now I've got this laundry list of things to do, and I haven't been to New York in 20 years. And my husband reminds me of how brilliantly and beautifully and divinely I created that. Like, he said, there's nothing you can't do after we saw how you did that. Like, my cousin happens to live in Brooklyn. She in this fabulous home, and she donated her place. We went to Bed Bath & Beyond and got all these gifts and wrapped them. I found this was like before I was on Facebook, so this was all email. I was emailing everyone I could think of. Do you know anyone in New York who will do this? And the gifts kept showing up. And so every time I get in fear of how can I produce this, how can I make this happen, I remind myself of that time. And it's like, oh, we did it then. We just keep repeating that same thing of like, I don't have to worry about the how, I just have to ask for help.
As you're telling this story, because I've seen that clip. I've seen that Lisa clip. And to hear you talk about getting prepared for that, you would never have known that you pulled that off beautifully and gracefully, and your husband is absolutely right. What a beautiful reminder that is to have, like, living, like that clip is still alive, and it's wonderful to see that. Wow.
Yeah,
so
thank you.
Making that step into that broader perspective of you, that one that was going for it, did you have, like, I call it the imposter complex, like you feel like, who am I to be doing this? But also the support of your friends and family seems to be tested when you're starting to succeed. I've noticed that a lot lately, and it's a challenge that I'm facing myself. I think there should be more people happy about my success. And why
right?
isn't there? And I'm wondering, am I
nice?
the only one that deals with that, or is that, a common thing?
It's so common. I want to go back to the imposter syndrome for a minute. I'm going to butcher this quote by Bette Midler, but it's always really struck me as so true because I have this massive ambition, but I am also, as you know, Stephanie, a truly humble person. So, Bette Midler says you have to be bold enough to believe that people care what you have to say and humble enough to still worry that no one will show up. And I love that. That's really how I operate. I leap off tall buildings on a daily basis going after my dreams. And there's still a part of me, even mid-swing off that tall building, that goes, what if nobody cares? What if nobody comes? What if nobody responds? What if nobody answers? What if I get crickets? What if I'm full of shit? And so the first part is the imposter of self, right? Like that's the first thing that we all face. And then just as we start to get over that, we get the beautiful, painful reflection from people who can't be happy for our success. Who the F do you think you are?
Yes.
And that's another test from the universe.
How did you handle that kind of thing and still, maintain your momentum to where you wanted to go? How did you stay in your truth when other people were spewing their truth?
Not always gracefully. I can remember one person in particular, and this happened multiple times. I will be honest, I've lost a lot of friends, and that's okay. It used to really pain me. I will say the greatest gift of having the husband that I have is that I know I will never lose him in this process because he just wants me to be me, and I'm allowed to be me, and that is what I asked for my entire life because I grew up in a house where it wasn't okay to be me. So to have manifested a home life where it's safe to be me makes it safer to go out in the world and experience the sometimes hate, the venom. But I had a friend, and this was a dear friend. This was somebody who changed my life. We met when I was working at Mattel. He was writing for a Barbie magazine, and I was writing for Barbie Collector Online. So we basically had the same job for different publications. He became one of my best friends. We used to go to Barbie conventions together and cover the convention for our websites and our magazines. And not only that, but he became such a dear friend that when I decided to totally change my life and get rid of all the trappings that were holding me prisoner, and I moved out of my condo and I put everything in storage and I rented it out, I lived on his living room floor for a summer. Like we blew up an air mattress, and every night we would pump it up, and I lived on his living room floor the summer I changed my life. This was somebody who was so incredibly dear to me. It was the summer I met my husband. It was the summer that I really stepped into my power. And when he finally said to me about 2 years later, I hate what you're basically what he said was, I hate what you're becoming because it's a reflection of what I'm not. He didn't say that. That was the underlying message. The true message was, you better be careful who you hurt on the way up because it's a bumpy ride down, which I didn't understand because I hadn't done anything to hurt him. I spent weeks in desperation over that. I was mortified and in pain and hurt and agonizing. And if I looked at him accurately, he kind of had that behavior with everyone in his life. He had a lot of successful friends in the entertainment industry, and he would say those things to those people, and they would always come back and forgive him. And my biggest lesson in life is you can hurt me a couple times, but after one or two, I'm out because I don't accept that in my life. And so I had to get okay with saying, I know it's okay for everyone else in your life. This is just who you are. You burst out and you get angry and then it subsides. That kind of behavior does not work for who I am and who I'm becoming. I can't have people like that in my life. And so I lovingly let you go.
That's a really powerful gem that you just shared with us, because I know from my own experience, I've experienced that same thing of having to let go friends that had been in my life for years as I started to expand and change my own life. They just weren't ready to keep up, and I had to let some of them go, and it is a painful process, but what I discovered was that as I let go of them, I made room for more new friends, and that was really amazing. So I am imagining also that you began to become surrounded by people who you were tuning into, who benefited you and uplifted you and surrounded you with the information that you needed, and were as you let go of that old stuff. Is that accurate to say?
Yes. And you can't, here's the truth. I'm just tuning into this. There isn't room for more in your life, more abundance, more friendship, more success, when you're holding on to trappings of the past that are bringing you down. So sometimes, and this is what keeps people stuck. You have to be empty before you can fill up again. So sometimes the idea of the loss is so painful that we'd rather just stay full of what we have, full of shit, full of crap. Like, it doesn't matter, as long as it's full. But if I empty and there's this emptiness and there's this space, I'm forced to just sit in it by myself, which can be really uncomfortable, number one. And number two, it's going to require a leap of faith to believe that I can fill it up with something different. Because if what we've always done has always gotten us what we always get, then who are we to think we can have something different? And I will tell you, this is such a beautiful full circle moment. Like, I went to a friend. We have a dear friend who is an amazing singer, and every year on his birthday, he hosts this salon for all his talented friends at this bar restaurant in Hollywood, and his friends each perform. It's a beautiful experience, and I've gone to it for the last couple of years, and it's one of my favorite nights of the year. And we went, and I had never performed before, but I said, I'd love to share one of my stories about my confessions of an imposter mom. That's my story of me becoming an instant mom for my niece. And he's like, yeah, do that. So I show up on Saturday night, and I look around, and I'm like, I am surrounded by people I know and love and people I don't know. But by the end of the night, not one person said, how dare you share that story? Every single person in that room said, thank you for sharing that story. That's the difference, is when you allow yourself to elevate and you love yourself enough to give yourself permission to be as big and bold as you want, people will reflect back to you, I see you, I get it, I celebrate you, rather than how dare you.
That is so beautiful, and it's such an important point that you just hit on, which is the power of loving self. And really, it's one of the most amazing things that I've learned from you working with you is you've taught me how to really, really, really do that. Not just in my business, but in my personal life as well. And the results are just life-changing. So you are like this gifted creator. You're a genius wordsmith. The relationship advice you share in your book, It's a Breakup, Not a Breakdown, has helped women all over the world discover their own worth. As a creative director, you've helped many women, including me, tune into that inner essence of authenticity and live from that space in our lives and in our business. What can you tell us about how feeling on purpose plays a part in what you do every day to be able to do what you do every day?
Well, a lot of people look at me and go, how do you do everything you do, right? Like, because I do a lot. And the first thing is I don't do it alone. I have, as you would call your divine unseen rock stars, but I also have an amazing team of supporters. I work with producers who my job is to either be the talent or come up with the idea, but then they help me flesh it out. I have, when I'm working with entrepreneurs, I have a whole team of people, of designers, of programmers, of virtual assistants, of photographers, as you know, with Starla, and you've interviewed her. So I know that I can't do anything in isolation. I am 1,000% about collaboration. That's key. I thrive in a collaborative zone. Like, I love that play with other people. I'm so all about play. So anytime I can get to play, I know I'm on purpose. And the other thing is, I know what it feels like not to be on purpose, and it's so uncomfortable in my body. Like, I don't want to live that way. So for me, regardless of how hard it is some days to be on purpose, I know how hard it is to be out of alignment with my purpose. So it's way easier to just surrender and go, okay, this is who we are. Let's fearlessly jump off that building again today.
And what I'm hearing as you're saying that is you have an ability to trust. So as you're co-creating, you are trusting as you're delegating to your teams and you're working with co-creators, you're really trusting the divine outcome and the inspiration that you were guided with as you take action on that inspiration.
Trust is a hard thing for me. It does not come easily. I will say that. I have, and I deal with this frequently. I have some abandonment issues that I think are very interesting because I don't know where they come from. And I've explored them, and I'm like, that's so interesting. Who abandoned me? No one. But I may have abandoned myself. So that's kind of what I've connected to at some point as a child. So for me, trust doesn't come easily. And the more I trust myself, the more I trust others. I remember the first time I was going to do my first big live event. I used to do Woohoo Weekend every year. And it started with 20 women, and then it became 80 women, and then it became 120 people. Like it grew year over year. And I remember waking up the morning every single time I did Woohoo Weekend, and there would be this massive panic in my belly, and it would stop the minute I took a breath and said, Lisa, I trust you. Like, I trust you. And it still happens whenever I perform live, whenever I speak live, because I don't actually prepare a lot. I tune in, but I don't outwardly prepare. So whenever I'm speaking in front of a group, there's a part of me that's like, you don't know what the hell you're going to do. And then I remember my process is trust and tuning in. So a lot of this comes from being willing to trust yourself first. And then the other thing I will say is surrender. Surrender is a beautiful place. When we are in struggle, when we are in pain, when we are holding on, when ego is raging, all of that is because we are choosing to be in control rather than surrender. And I am really, actually July is my month of celebrating surrender. I really, there were some things I was holding on to with a vice grip. And what's so interesting is when you surrender, the outcome changes, the energy changes. There were a couple creative projects that I was like, I'm not coming across as passionate right now. I'm coming across as intense. And that's affecting how people are feeling the project. So as much as I love this project and believe it's my number one passion project, I need to show the passion, not the intensity. So I need to dial it back. I need to be in receptivity mode as well as trust mode rather than these people aren't going to do this for me. Like, it's a very interesting dance I go through. So I have by no means figured it out, but I am willing to be on the journey.
I love that. If you were to give one piece of advice to the listeners about living your dreams, what would that be?
Oh, yeah, living your dreams. You've heard me say this before, Stephanie. There is no dream come true without dream plus do. So if a dream has been divinely downloaded into you, and you've heard me say this too, Stephanie, this is for everyone listening. If a dream has been divinely downloaded into you, how lucky are you? That is not something to fear or be daunted by. That's something to give grace and gratitude for and say, oh my God, I get that message. I get to go take this out into the world. And when you take the you out of the equation, you go, it's not about ego. It's about this was downloaded into me and for the world. You then don't get so daunted. The dream can be as big, as crazy, as wild as it possibly is, but the do no longer scares you because you're just committed to being the messenger. I remember I had a life coach right after I left Mattel. A friend of mine was like, I really believe in what you're doing with this breakup stuff. Let me coach you. And she said, I have these premonition dreams, and I had this dream you're going to be on TV. And she specifically said the Today Show. And I was like, that's great. And I couldn't imagine how that would happen at that point in time because I had the dream, but I hadn't done enough of the do yet to understand that could be my reality. Now when someone tells me, I see this for you, I don't doubt it because I've already created the dream, and every day it's my job to do what I need to do. And the other piece here that's really important is don't forget to be. Like you touched on, Stephanie, that I really am here to teach women especially, but men too, how to love themselves, because you can have a killer business, but you might be killing yourself. You can have marriage and money, but if you're not happy, what's the point? So for me, it's not the end destination of a ring on your finger or $1 million in the bank. It's what does the journey look like for you? Are you happy on that journey? Do you get to be you on that journey? And if you're not happy at home, you're not going to be happy in your business. If you're not happy in love, it's easier to be alone. Like, I just really don't want people to settle in their lives. It's too hard.
And I just love the whole shift in perspective that you just provided for living your dreams. Instead of it being daunting, it turns into an honor and something to be grateful for. And I just love the way that feels. It feels completely different than who am I to go do this. It feels like I'm the one who gets to go do this instead, and it's completely different energy. Wow, that is so good.
Yeah, it's a shift from, and this is important for our own language, I have to do this, to, oh my God, I get to do this. Like, I get to do it. Like Saturday, I was with my niece, and we were really busy all day, and I knew I was going to be performing that night, and there was this angsty energy in my body, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm afraid. And then I turned to myself, I turned inward, and I said, no, I actually think you're excited. Like, what if we don't spend all day being stressed out about this, and what if we actually spend the day being excited about it? And there was no need to be stressed because it was exciting, but sometimes we mistake all that energy, like that excitement energy, as something it's not. So another really important thing is know what you're feeling. Tune into the feeling. Don't run from the feeling. I used to be the queen of like, oh, am I feeling something on my body? Let me like escape to my head. But the beauty of being in your body is you get so much information, and it's not scary. It's how you use it.
Oh, that is so, so powerful. And it moves right into our last question. I can't believe this time has gone by so fast already. It happens every time I talk to you.
I love it.
Last question is there a practice, as you were just talking about feeling on purpose, is there a practice or personal growth tool that you use in your everyday life that you'd be willing to share with us?
Yes, I am a huge Julia Cameron Artist Way fan. So for those of you who don't know Artist Way, Google Julia Cameron, go on Amazon. Artist Way is a 12-chapter book that you can do over 12 weeks. You can do it by yourself. You can do it with other people. And it's really about awakening your artist. I happened to do Artist Way twice in my 20s, so I came to this work very early, and I'm so thankful. That's how my Breakup book was birthed. So much has changed in my life because of Artist Way. And now she also has a book called Artist Way Every Day. So unlike the chapter, which is longer, you read a one-page passage, and then and that's your job for the day, your artist duty. So you read the passage, and then you do 3 pages of writing, which she calls morning pages. So you do them in the morning. And that process really allows me to get the gunk out, especially the writing part. Like someone asked me the other day, do you ever go back and read? I said, no, that's not my job. My job is to get it out. I bet it's really boring. I bet it's really emotional and angsty on some days. I bet there's a nugget or two of good ideas in between all that stuff. But that is my practice, and that is my commitment to myself.
Wow, I'm writing madly, and I'm going to look that up as soon as this is over. And listeners, I recommend that you do too. It's been an honor to share this space with you. Oh, it's been just so insightful and powerful, and I truly appreciate everything you shared with us today. Amazing.
Thank you. I have loved this so much.
And, listeners, thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Stephanie Kathan. We've been joined today by the fabulous Lisa Steadman, and you've been listening to another Feeling on Purpose interviews that are growing your mind. And stay tuned because there will be more Feeling on Purpose stuff coming up. And until next time, keep shining in your brilliance. Bye-bye, everybody.